Welcome to Bobby Joe's. So tonight we're going to have ricotta beef casserole for dinner. This is a keto recipe. We're starting off with ground beef. The recipe calls for a pound. This may be over a pound. This is my fresh ground beef. This is ground chuck. It says to use a very lean ground beef, but if it's not lean, all you got to do is drain the oil off of it when it's done. And we're just going to let this cook until it's brown. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. And I don't know if I said, but make sure you preheat the oven on 375 degrees. All right, this is almost done. They're still a little pink, but they'll be okay. I've got a KitchenAid attachment that is a meat grinder. I have a video on how to use it and all of that if you're interested in seeing that. But this is one of my favorites. My favorite is the ice cream attachment, where you make your ice cream. And then the meat grinder is my second favorite KitchenAid attachment. Okay, so you want a fourth of they call them red onions, but they're purple. A red onion. And this was a very big onion, so I guess it depends on the size of your onion what a fourth is going to look like. But I like onions, so that's going to be fine. Now, this also calls for mushrooms. But I'm not adding the mushrooms in because Steve does not like mushrooms. So I'm going to saute some mushrooms to go on the side, and I'll add that into mine when I scoop mine out of the casserole dish. So you have a fourth of an onion, and then we're going to do 2 cloves of minced garlic, which I'm using the store-bought stuff that's already minced. Just going to do 2 spoons of that. You'll saute this together for about 3 minutes. Let the onions get a little soft. And it'll flavor that meat up good. Okay, so you can use whatever type of sauce you want. The recipe calls for a cup of tomato sauce, but I'm not using tomato sauce. Steve doesn't care for tomato sauce because it gives him acid reflux. So we're just going to use this jar of Alfredo. And Alfredo has 2 carbs per serving. And the serving's about a half a cup. So I'm just going to pour this in. Added a little bit of water to the bottom of this jar, and I'm going to shake it up and try to get the rest of this off. And there we go. You can save these jars. They're really good for storage. Or you can recycle these jars, or you can just chunk them, whatever you want to do. So mix this all together. You're going to need a 2-quart casserole dish. I'm going to let that simmer together for about 5 minutes. And while that's simmering, we're going to go over here to my workstation. Okay, here's my casserole dish I'm using. This is a Pyrex. It's a vintage, of course. I think it's 2.5 quarts. So that's the perfect size. Isn't that pretty? So we're going to use this as the casserole dish. I'm going to go take these, I'm going to wash these and put some mushrooms over here in a skillet. I'll show you how I saute up my mushrooms. think my sister was wanting to see how I do that because she's going to try mushrooms. You're also going to need 15 ounces of ricotta cheese, part skim. You know, and I need some oregano and basil to throw on top. I've got some basil in here. Oregano's in my garden. I need to go cut some oregano. Be right back. We've had tons of rain. I need to get out here and weed my garden. But those are my squash plants. Down there are my cucumbers. And look at all this oregano. I've got oregano everywhere. I need to cut the heads off of those marigolds. That's sage. That's more oregano. My lilies are getting ready to bloom, so I'll show those to you when they bloom. These are my black-eyed Susans, my impatiens, and I have my lilies. Those are day lilies. Down there's a ditch lily. I need to trim this oregano back and dry out some of it, but this recipe calls for fresh anyway, so I'm gonna find some of the best looking oregano here and trim off a little bit. So you want to make sure you wash your oregano and basil. Make sure you don't have any little bugs on it when you bring it out of the garden. Wash it down good. That's fresh. You don't get any fresher than that. It comes straight out of the garden. So I'm going to chop it up in little pieces. You need about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons, I think is what it said. So I had a visitor from Arizona yesterday, Cynthia, with Cynthia Crafts and More. That's her channel on here on YouTube. She came and visited. She's doing a trip to Gatlinburg. And we had a nice visit. I would have liked to have shown her a lot of sights downtown, but they were having the Ironman challenge, so all the streets down there were closed. A lot of them were anyway. And I didn't want to tackle all that, so we drove around North Georgia, went over to Ringgold, saw where Dolly Parton was married, and me and Steve got married there too. And we were looking for a Georgia magnet and had the hardest time finding a Georgia magnet. But we had a good time. Recipe says this goes on top, but I'm going to mix this into my sauce. I don't think Steve will like looking at green stuff on top. He might be like, I'm not going to eat that. So I'm going to mix it into the sauce. I'll be right back. That way it's a little hidden. It's like cooking for a kid, isn't it? So if you're using the fresh herbs, it says to mix it into the ricotta cheese. All these cheeses I'm fixing to mix together. I think it's easier to hide it in the sauce. So that's why I put it in the sauce. It'll have plenty of flavor. Okay, so in a mixing bowl, and my small ones are dirty in the dishwasher, I'm going to add a little onion powder to this. I think onion powder will be good. I never follow a recipe. Just make it up as I go. I might add a little garlic too. All right, we're just going to shake a little onion powder on this. This garlic powder comes out real quick, so I'm trying to just do a little. Okay, so a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. A little more is okay. They never have too much cheese. It says it says 1 tablespoon of grated parm. I don't have my measuring spoons. I'm just gonna do a few of these little kitchen spoons. Can't have too much parm either. All right, we're gonna mix this all together like that. I'm gonna put my casserole dish back over here, and let me zoom out a little bit. We're gonna pour the stuff in the skillet in here first. And that is what it looks like. And it smells delicious. Now you can make your own Alfredo, or you can use the tomato sauce. You can do a jar of spaghetti sauce and just thicken it up a little with tomato paste. Or we don't do a whole lot of tomato because Steve's got reflux problems. Alright, let's just push all that down in there. Then we're going to top it with this whipped cream looking mixture. This ricotta cheese looks like whipped cream. All of my kitchen stuff is in that dishwasher. Let me see. I have a little spatula. I have this one. Because I don't want to waste any of this cheese. Get it all out of this bowl. All right. Let me get my offset spatula. I always open up the wrong drawer. I'm gonna have to eventually show y'all my little workstation here. It's got two little drawers. It's actually a tool bench for your garage, but I thought it would make a wonderful kitchen island because it's on wheels, and my kitchen is so small I need to be able to move it around. And it's one of those Husky workbenches, and it goes up and down like one of those stand-up desks. It's basically a stand-up workbench like you would use in the garage. But it's white, and you can tell the top. I think it looks fine, but I'm not an interior decorator. I don't really care what people think about the inside of my house. My house is a cluttered mess, actually. Because I'm married to a pack rat. He keeps everything. But I just embrace it. Try not to get upset about it. Because I love him. Alright, this goes in the oven. Let me see how long. Hang on. Okay, this is going to go in the oven for 30 minutes. So we'll come back in 30 minutes. Okay, I forgot I was going to show my sister how to saute mushrooms. This is 3 tablespoons of butter melted. I sliced up 2 very large mushrooms, so if you're doing smaller mushrooms, you might want to do about 4. Just chunk the mushrooms in there. Kind of mix it around in the butter. I like mine to be a little flavorful, so I add a little bit of garlic. I've got this minced garlic from the grocery store. Just doing a little bit of it. If you don't have it, you can use garlic powder. It's probably about 1/4 teaspoon. It's not a whole lot. You can add onion powder to it. You can season them however you like it. They're really good with teriyaki seasoning. I've got some of that G. Hughes teriyaki seasoning in there. But I don't want to do teriyaki because we're having like ricotta cheese casserole. So this is going to be more Italian. Yeah, I think I'll put a little onion powder in it. You can add soy sauce to it. I don't add salt because my butter's salted. But if it's not, you may want to add a little salt and a little pepper. And then that's all I do. If I was having something like a teriyaki chicken, I could make some of these with a teriyaki sauce as a side. But you can pretty much flavor the mushrooms to go with whatever meal you're having. Now, I could chop up some of that, the rest of that oregano and basil and put in here. But I'm probably just going to mix this in with my casserole. I just did it separately because Steve doesn't like mushrooms. So when I get mine on my plate, I'm just going to mix my mushrooms in with it. But these are always a good side. But anyway, you saute them 5-10 minutes. Doesn't take long. I have it on medium heat. But after I saute them, so I've got 11 minutes left on the casserole. So I'm probably going to turn this down to low and just kind of let it simmer until the casserole's done. That way it stays warm the whole time. But that's all there is to doing mushrooms. I mean, you can just saute them in butter. You can do them in avocado oil or olive oil too. It's just butter has more flavor to it. And you can just season them however you like. I mean, you can put any kind of seasoning on it you want. But that's all I'm going to do for it. We'll be back when everything comes out of the oven. Okay, there it is. Nice and bubbly. It probably needs to cool a few minutes, but we don't have time for that because Steve's got a Zoom meeting in a few minutes when he's going to serve this. I was wanting to make some keto garlic bread to go with this, but I didn't have time. As it sits a few minutes, it'll thicken up some. And here's my sauteed mushrooms. And I'm just going to pour them on top. Like that. Okay, so it kind of looks like hamburger gravy. But as you can see, there's the hamburger. And it's got the ricotta and all the cheese. But it tastes really good. You have to let it sit a few minutes to thicken up, because when it comes out of the oven, it's very runny. You could probably add a little xanthan gum, thicken it up a little. I may do that if I make it again. But I have a lot of other keto recipes to try, so it may be a while before I get back to this one, but this is really good.